Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video I want to take a look at some of the updates the Demon Hunters have gotten with a blue post from Blizzard. These are all the updates that are available right now, and they're mostly talent changes, as Demon Hunter doesn't really have a lot of depth to truly alter it completely, but they're changing up a couple talents in the playstyle that might get more people to check out the old school momentum playstyle, and maybe even drop demonic for the first time in a long while. We got updates for Havoc Demon Hunter, which is the DPS spec of Demon Hunter. We also got updates for Vengeance. I will go over Vengeance, but they're not really super massive by what I've seen. They're mostly just enhancements to enhance the currently available playstyle and change a couple talents to be a little bit less janky to play with and have more of synergy with current playstyle that Vengeance has. I'll have a whole tank video at a later time, and I'll mention Vengeance Demon Hunters, and maybe I'll even mention some of the recent Blue Post updates to the playstyle. But primarily I want to focus on Havoc Demon Hunter, although I will cover the Vengeance playstyle and some of the changes as well. So with Havoc Demon Hunter, we have a couple different changes to talents. First of all, your talent of Demonic Appetite is still going to allow you to cleave souls off of enemies when you Chaos Strike them. And it'll still grant you 30 Fury, but no longer does this ability or talent have a tie to the cooldown reduction from your I-Beam. Instead, it's actually going to be recycled into Cycle of Hatred. When Chaos Strike refunds Fury, it also reduces the cooldown of I-Beam by 3 seconds. What's the RNG element of it gaining back Fury, the refund? It's 40%. I think this used to be back in Legion crit based, but right now in Shadowlands and maybe a BFA, because I haven't played my Demon Hunter in a while, it is 40%. That's a decent number. It's not quite 50%, but it's still high enough where you do get it regularly. How does this affect the Demon Hunter playstyle? So I think for pure single target situations where you're trying to get a lot of Chaos Strikes into an enemy, you get I-Beam back about the same, if maybe a little bit faster with Demonic, at least from what I've been able to test in dungeons. With Demonic Appetite, however, it made it so that any soul shard you grab gives you cooldown back on your I-Beam. There's a couple abilities that give you back resources like soul shards and such. So for example, and I think this is mostly a Battle for Azeroth traits that do this, but in BFA traits, for example, interrupting enemies or going for consume magic can rip a soul out of them, so that would give a Demon Hunter an ability to gain cooldown back faster. Then every time enemies die, that's another soul to gain I-Beam back faster. And then an ability of Chaos Nova, which is your stun, in order to lock enemies down in a dungeon, has a 30% chance per enemy hit to drop a lesser soul. What I'm trying to say is, in a pure AoE situation, as a Demon Hunter, you're not going to focus on Chaos Strikes as much. You will try using other abilities like your Immolation Aura. You'll try to Blade Dance. You'll zoom around the battlefield with Fell Rush. You'll get the I-Beam up and running. You'll probably go for a stun on enemies in order to help your tank deal with the situation. You'll go for interrupts. You'll go for your consume magics, and then you'll use Chaos Strike as the last ability. So in a pure AoE situation, there's a bunch of abilities ahead of you as a priority for you to use before you spam Chaos Strike. So maybe in Shadowlands, you might be able to get a bunch of I-Beams back to back by spamming a lot of Chaos Strikes over and over. That could potentially be a playstyle, but I feel like Demonic Appetite was just too easy and insanely strong of a talent. So them taking that aspect of I-Beam cooldown reduction, especially for a popular demonic build, and sticking it into Cycle of Hatred might make Cycle of Hatred a little bit stronger in the row, but it definitely makes Demonic Appetite not nearly as a go-to. Maybe Blind Fury in that row might still be decent. Maybe Fell Rush could be really good, especially if you're playing for a momentum build. Fell Rush does feel quite good. But yeah, they wanted to nerf Demonic Appetite by a little bit. I think this does make the playstyle for Demon Hunter, if you're going for Demonic, a little bit wonky of a play, at least from what I've been able to play in dungeons. But let's go on with some of the other changes. Insatiable Hunger, Demon's Bite will deal still 20% damage, but they changed the amount of fury you can generate. So the minimum is 5, maximum is 10. They wanted to up that minimum so you can get more fury regularly, because there will be some times where you're just hitting Demon Bite and it's not giving you that much more fury back. Immolation Aura has been changed, so now using Immolation Aura grants you 20 fury as soon as you use it. Burning Hatred was kind of the go-to talent for a bit, and Immolation Aura, even on BFA, is a really strong talent. The amount of fury it generates is quite high. So instead, they decided on Shadowlands to let Immolation Aura generate 20 fury by itself, but you can talent it to Burning Hatred to generate extra 60 fury over 12 seconds. So if you want to have old school Burning Hatred that you had with Immolation Aura, given all that resources you can, but If you don't, and you go for Insatiable Hunger or Demon's Blades, you're not going to be punished nearly as heavily, since Immolation Aura at least will generate some fury. Another ability that got changed is your Fel Mastery is taken out, and now you have Unbound Chaos, which is an interesting synergetic ability that I'm a huge fan of. And I think this ability might be why Momentum is picking up momentum on the alpha. While the Immolation Aura is active, your inner demon slams into nearby enemies at the end of your Fel Rush, doing quite a bit of chaos damage. This is cool because, well, it'll make a Demon Hunter think a little bit. First of all, let me show you what this ability looks like. You'll pop Immolation Aura, and you'll charge. Right now, if you're not inside of a dungeon, the Demon Hunter behind you kind of rushes to the halfway point of where you charge from and just explodes there. But in dungeons, it does seem like it travels all the way from where you start all the way to where you end. So in dungeons, I'm having to aim it a little bit differently than I do out in the open world, which feels weird. So hopefully Blizzard is able to fine-tune that in the future. But it's an interesting combo. When you have your Immolation Aura, you can save up charges of Fel Rush in order to be able to get that big AoE. And this ability does quite a lot of damage, and of course synergizes obviously well with Momentum. So I've been playing it quite a lot, and damn, is it kind of fun. So far for Demon Hunter, usually I'm just slamming my head on the keyboard, spamming I-beam, and blade dancing. But now with Unbound Chaos, you actually have to kind of aim where you're at, make sure you're aiming where you're charging to. So hopefully Blizzard figures out whether they want the demon to run all the way to the end of your Fel Rush, or maybe halfway through, which will give you a little bit easier time to just Fel Rush past your enemy. The demon will kind of go into the crowd, explode, and then you still get the full value. But aiming this ability is also quite fun. I think Blizzard needs to figure out how they want this ability to function. But it's a cool combo, and I think it's something that Demon Hunter needed, since I think most of the abilities are quite simple. So you really needed something to spice up your life. Next, we'll take a look at some of the changes for Vengeance Demon Hunter. It's mostly talents, but a couple of abilities as well. Not really massive changes for the tank aspect of the game, but some things that Blizzard wanted to adjust. First of all, the tooltip for Immolation Aura, instead it's supposed to read that it will now show the total amount of damage you do over the duration of the spell. So here it says 504 fire damage over 6 seconds. And then same thing with your Fiery Brand. This says it will do damage immediately, and then 368 fire damage over 8 seconds. So this actually says how much damage it will do over time. Ability of Soakleaf has been buffed by 20%. Blizzard said in the blue post that, well, they felt that this ability they wanted to be good, but then other talents like your Spirit Bomb just did more damage. I think the difference though, it was Spirit Bomb, is it says explode afflicting nearby enemies, so I don't think this ability actually has a cap on AoE, while Soulcleave has a cap on AoE. So with the changes happening in BFA with AoE caps, I don't really know how many people will actually play Soulcleave, but again, buffing it by 20% to try to get more people to use this ability, which they kind of wanted to be the baseline ability for Demon Hunter instead of completely ignoring it. I think it's better than nothing. We'll see if Demon Hunters actually pick up using this ability more. Another change that has happened is Agonizing Flame no longer increases damage of Immolation Aura. It now increases duration by 50%. Agonizing Flame is here. Immolation Aura increases your movement speed and duration is increased by 50. So you can synergize together with Infernal Armor, but it no longer increases the damage of Immolation Aura. Interesting, but they did redesign certain talents in order to give you opportunity to do more damage. Piece of Soul's healing is increased by 25%. Compared to Fallout and Burning Alive, I think Fallout kind of has been the go-to. So again, it's just one of those talents that doesn't really heal you for that much. So Blizzard is trying to buff it in, just buffing the numbers for it, I think, in order to get more people to at least give it a go, without really changing the redesign of the ability yet. Some of the other changes have happened with Charred Flesh. Immolation Aura damage increases the duration of Firebrand by 0.5 seconds. So by half a second, if you, let's say, mark somebody with Firebrand and you're standing next to the Immolation Aura, you will extend the duration of that ability by a little bit. It looks like both specs, the Vengeance and Havoc, both have gotten a playstyle where Immolation Aura can alter another ability. And I think maybe that's something Demon Hunter needs. That's kind of a unique but simple combo that I think provides a little bit more fun to the gameplay. It's not super complex as Demon Hunter class usually is, but it gives a little bit extra because to a class that, well, doesn't really have a lot of abilities for its spellbook, for its playstyle, which isn't a bad thing. I understand Blizzard wants to keep the spec in this class simple. It's great for new players to pick up. It has a lot of mobility. It's super fun and focused on fun, but when you don't have that much depth, it sometimes can show holes in the playstyle. As we saw, not a lot of Demon Hunters at the beginning of BFA, for example, were that great of tanks until way later. So I really wouldn't want Demon Hunters to be kind of discounted just because they are too simple, and that might show holes in some of the ways that they can deal or cannot deal with dungeon and raid situations. That's going to be all for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. I would like to test it out as soon as I can, but for Havoc Demon Hunter, I ran a dungeon with it, and it's quite a good spec. Or I can't really say it's a bad spec, but the playstyle and different builds that I've tried playing the original demonic build as best as I could. Cycle of Hatred, I tried messing with it. Insatiable Hunger, tried messing with that as well. And the demonic build, to me at least, and maybe in your experience it might be different, but it's almost like Blizzard maybe wants for us to give this build a break. You know, take a back step and try to adjust in our talents to maybe utilize Unbound Chaos with a momentum build. Maybe go back to Demon's Blades like back in the day and Fellblade. You know, maybe play with, instead of Cycle of Hatred, First Blood, and kind of recreate the old school Demon Hunter playstyle we used to play back in Legion. And right now you can actually do that quite well. It does quite a lot of damage. It is a lot of positionals. It is a lot of you zooming around, and I'm not used to it. Usually you have the freedom to use mobility any way you want to, but when you go momentum, it does create a little bit of a skill gap, I guess, between a player that knows how to position properly with your momentum in order to be able to maximize the damage after a fell rush, and someone who doesn't. Momentum also being buffed in BFA, where on Vengeful Retreat it will generate 80 Fury over 10 seconds. That is something that is kind of hard to get used to because I haven't played Momentum in such a long while, and sometimes you just feel like you're overflowing with Fury. But someone who knows how to use Momentum properly, knowing when to Vengeful Retreat, knowing when to Fell Rush, and being able to understand how the dungeon mechanics are going to go by, how boss mechanics are going to go, and taking advantage of it, you know, Fell Rushing when you need to, saving those when you don't, finding pockets and moments where you can get some mad damage in. I think it's actually quite fun. And Demon Hunter being one of those classes that just doesn't have a lot of abilities, there's not a lot of base depth, but talents alter your playstyle in drastic ways, going for momentum and really committing to it with Fellblade, Demon Blade, Unbound Chaos, First Blood, maybe even Master of the Glaive, just because you sometimes don't have enough globals. And then you go for momentum build. It's actually quite fun. It had a blast, surprisingly, and I found that build a little bit better damage-wise. I don't really want to talk much about damage because on the alpha we shouldn't really weigh in heavily the damage output of classes. The reason we shouldn't weigh the damage in the alpha that much because it's all in progress, and Blizzard still hasn't done the balance tuning yet. But the demonic playstyle does feel kind of awkward, and I'm so used to playing BFA where you can play different builds and you can feel if you're playing it right or wrong. If you're playing the playstyle and it just doesn't seem to come together, and then you're looking at your details and your damage is quite low, you understand that something is wrong there. In the alpha it's different and it always disorients me, but the damage differences are there, but also demonic just doesn't feel to me nearly as fun, nearly as cohesive. It could be fixed easily with stats, and maybe with a load of haste where we can't really influence our gear that much on the alpha, kind of just hoping maybe we'll get a decent piece from dungeons that is scaling properly with us. Sometimes the stuff scales awfully because we are still not at max level characters, we're just upscaled to test out the content, all for testing, not for character building. And then you give me momentum build, which is super fun. It feels like a lost art. Lots of zooming around. Something that Demon Hunter I feel like should always be about. Mobility should be your 100% priority from the very get-go. And when you give me a build in my hands as fun as this, and then the damage that it outputs is quite high, I mean, it's super hard not to get excited about it. And this is something I think Demon Hunter maybe needed. Just a fresh new outlook, a couple new talents, in order to create or at least allow you to be able to recreate the same momentum build from back in the day. The same build that I've seen so many Demon Hunters way back in Legion use. The build that kind of drew me to Demon Hunter in the first place. Now, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and I think Blizzard is trying to give players an opportunity to mix and match the builds as they wish. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for Blizzard to balance out abilities in order to create opportunities for us to play whatever we like. But personally, huge fan of momentum playstyle. The recent changes to some of the talents, I think, influence for us to want to at least attempt, to at least try the momentum build once or twice when playing our characters. And overall, I found it quite enjoyable and super fun. But anyway, thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts about some of the Demon Hunter changes that happened recently. I'd like to hear some of you guys' opinions on them. Overall, Demon Hunter is actually feeling quite good with this momentum build, and hopefully this momentum that Blizzard is establishing for it continues on into the Shadowlands Alpha. Hopefully beta will be available soon, by the way. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see all of you guys in another one.